All right, well, I want to go ahead and get started so we can stay on time. We have still people coming in, but so anyway, hello and thank everyone for joining our webinar today entitled Creating New Business Opportunities with IoT. I'm Chris Massell. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for TagoIO. And today we have Tom Nelson, the Chief Customer Officer of Everynet, Tim Ripley, who's the Global Technical Director of Everynet, and Fabio Rosa, the CEO of TagoIO. And they'll be presenting a joint webinar on real use cases for Puerto Rico using an innovative IoT network technology. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, about 15 minutes. You can send your questions throughout the presentation, but obviously won't be able to answer them to the end. But the other thing I wanted to add was that we would love to get your feedback on future webinars that you might be interested in, that might be around specific verticals, maybe cold chain, supply chain, et cetera, or specific regions, Latin America, Europe, et cetera. I do want to remind you that we are recording this, so if you would like to review it again, it will be available on both of our websites. I will give you a brief overview of our agenda, if I can have that screen. So the first, Tom will talk about the Puerto Rico IoT use cases. And then Tim is going to talk about the Puerto Rico IoT technology. And Tago will give an introduction and applications. And then Fabio, TagoIO, will give a demonstration. And then, of course, we will go into Q&A. So Tom will be beginning, and I will hand it over to him.
Thanks, Chris. And looking forward to the conversation today, and really just excited to discuss Puerto Rico and the IoT use cases and technology. And so let's talk a little bit about the broader IoT opportunity. When we kind of think about the opportunity for IoT, just imagine if every business could achieve an understanding and a status of all the things in their operations, and then could dynamically in real time process and act on that data. This is the real value of enterprises that are looking at taking advantage of IoT to help increase revenues or reduce costs or help drive compliance and in terms of their operations. And so we see it broadly, and it's a huge opportunity that we have in front of us. First of all, I'd like to start a little bit with who is Everynet. So at Everynet, we build ultra low cost IoT networks around the globe. These are open networks that are open to the IoT development community, open to enterprises that want to take advantage of the network, and open to resellers and wholesalers that can take advantage of these capabilities as well. One of the things that we do is we put together a curated ecosystem of solutions that help layer on top of the national network. So we deliver the network and then have different kinds of solutions and capabilities that can layer and take advantage of it. One of the key advantages of their technology, it's extremely low cost. And we'll talk a little bit about the use cases that can take advantage of that. We do have a NOC in Varese, Italy. It's just north of Milan. So we have a global NOC that can take a look at our operations. Tim's going to talk a little bit about that. We also have within our company, our CTO is the co-author of the LoRaWAN specifications, and we have a host of R&D and expertise on the leading core platform. And so with that, I wanted to talk with you a little bit about some of our national networks that we have around the globe. Starting with Brazil, we have our network in Brazil. We're covering around 300 cities, about 75 to 78% of GDP in Brazil today, covering those cities and major thoroughfares within. We also have networks in Indonesia, in Spain, in Andorra, and now with some new announcements in Italy, Ireland, UK, and Iceland. So for today's purposes, I'd really like to talk with you a little bit more about on the Puerto Rico side. We've been working hard to deploy the network, and we're now covering 95% of the population in Puerto Rico. One of the questions that we often get is, how does LPWAN and how does LoRaWAN fit into all the different technology options that are out there to connect sensors to the cloud? And so if we think about this, starting on the bottom of the screen, you think about short range technology, Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or sometimes Zigbee or other kind of capabilities in the low range view. But if your really needs are really at a longer range, then your options really kind of start to fall to either cellular or solutions in LPWAN networks. And so what we often say is that the use case drives the right technology for connecting the sensor. And so in the LPWAN space, we're going to talk about long range and long battery life and very small amount of data required. So if I were to kind of think of that in terms of the IoT use cases, if you think about the cellular side, we look at solutions that are process control, it's tonnage using 3G, 4G, perhaps even 5G applications for video signage, digital signage, kiosks, ATMs, those kinds of solution sets. Where LoRa and LPWAN fits into the picture is the devices that don't have a lot to communicate and really can take advantage of this long battery life. So imagine the soil sensor on the bottom left, soil sensors that are throughout a farm or throughout acres that need to understand just the pH of the soil, perhaps the moisture, and feed that information up to the cloud and then go back to sleep. So it's those kinds of applications that we're seeing massive growth in. You know, actually 75% of all of the IoT devices really require very small data packages. And so those are the sweet spot that we see that's perfectly oriented for LPWAN. And some of the key benefits that we talked about is the long battery life, even up to 10 years. This low cost connectivity, it's bi-directional communication, so we can send information down to the sensor and back up. It's certainly global technology, a global standard with LoRa. So there's millions of devices that are connected around the globe taking advantage of this capability. Firmware updates over the air is another important piece. So imagine that you have all these sensors that out there. You don't want to necessarily do a truck roll if you want to upgrade the software. And so the technology allows over-the-air firmware updates to be done automatically. And also it has security encrypted capabilities. So it's a very secure network, and we can provide geolocation to understand for items like asset tracking, the location of those particular devices. And as we mentioned, it's long range up to 10 kilometers and even longer. And so I want to change direction and talk a little bit about Puerto Rico. So in Puerto Rico, it's really an amazing economy. If you take a look at the pie chart on the left, you're going to notice that from a GDP perspective, almost half is manufacturing. And so very large biopharma life sciences companies that are on the island. In fact, I understand that over 90% of all the Tylenol is manufactured in Puerto Rico. So if you've had a Tylenol lately, perhaps it's from Puerto Rico. If you take a look at some of the other manufacturing, computers, certainly Puerto Rican rum, the electrical equipment and other devices and other manufacturing is an important piece of this. And then certainly from the other side of the pie, services, industry, commerce, government, it's a tourism hotspot. And so those applications influence the kinds of IoT solutions that are coming in place. The other thing that you might have heard about Puerto Rico is the massive impact that we've had from the hurricanes Irma and then the real power hurricane that came through with Maria, unprecedented. And so we take a look at the impact that it's had around the telecommunications infrastructure. Puerto Rico had to go for days, weeks, months without key vital services. And this is another area as Puerto Rico has rebuilt and is still rebuilding infrastructure influences our IoT use cases. So with that, let me talk a little bit about some of the interesting use cases coming out of Puerto Rico from an IoT perspective. Because of the devastating storms, one of the things that Puerto Rico is looking at is their smart grid. And so different kinds of sensors that can be applied to, for instance, transformers to understand the temperature within the transformer on the electrical lines, trying to understand if there's leakage of water that's going into those, even line swag. So if a limb falls on top of the electrical wire, that information can be sensed and sent over to the appropriate authorities. These are the kinds of solutions that we're seeing around the globe and certainly would be appropriate for Puerto Rico. On the utility side, water, gas, electric metering solutions are appropriate for LoRa. Oftentimes not an electrical connection. You need long battery for those water and gas applications that are perhaps in the ground or in a parking lot. And also what we find that's interesting here is the ability to use data and analytics to sense where water is leaking. Water leakage is an important issue around the globe. We often see that countries can have 40, 50, and even 60% of water leakage of the treated water that's leaking through the pipes. And using IoT, it's able to sense and understanding when those leaks are occurring and help resolve those issues. So a huge important factor for Puerto Rico. Asset tracking, this is not a new one to the game, but I really think about it, it's really now taking a broader prominence around supply chain logistics. And so taking the assets from the factory and then distributing them around through the island, getting it to the warehouses, getting it into trucks and facilities, and then finally out to the San Juan port. All of these different pieces around supply chain logistics can help companies become much more efficient. This one has been in the news most recently, and it's around cold chain monitoring. And if you've looked at some of the recent vaccines that have been created to address the pandemic, you might have noticed that the temperature requirements for these vaccines are extremely cold. It's actually upwards to minus 80 centigrade. And so at that temperature, it has to maintain that temperature throughout its life, from the factory all the way to the distribution and the centers. And so using LoRa technology, it is able to put a sensor inside the refrigeration or the freezing unit and provide information in real time about the status and the temperature logs of cold chain. And it's not just pharmaceuticals. Cold chain monitoring also applies to quick serve restaurants, whether it's keeping dairy or other products at a particular temperature grade. It can provide real-time updates and information if you're outside of variance of temps. The last one is, again, because some of the storm issues that we've been seeing in Puerto Rico is imagine a one pane of glass to look at all of your buildings within the island and understand if issues like temperature and humidity and water leakage has occurred after a storm has gone through. I'm just touching on some of the use cases that are that we're seeing. And with that, what I'd like to do is hand it over to Tim Kipley to talk through some of the technical build out and requirements. Tim?
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Tom. Thank you to all the attendees for joining us today. It's great to have you all here. My name is Tim Kipley. I'm the Global Technical Director for Everynet. I'm based in Austin, Texas. And most recently, as Tom mentioned, we've been building a network in Puerto Rico. That network's been built and is operational at this time. We've also built other networks around the world. So if you don't mind flipping slides for me real quick, Tom, that'd be great. And let me just give you a rundown of sort of how the data flows in these networks. So what your customers expect to see is an app on their phone or a website or some sort of business system. And at the other end of it is, some sort of sensor. On the right-hand side, what we show is really the flow of data. So the top little boxes that you see there represent devices. Those devices are picked up by gateways that are placed throughout the island or throughout the region. In Puerto Rico right now, there's approximately 50 gateways, and we will be densifying the network slightly as the use cases build up and we determine which areas have the most traffic. But What the RAN is really, I guess you can describe it as a software-defined network, and that's the way we can take this coverage and be able to pass it on, I guess you could say, or offer it to anyone. So the radio network and these gateways feed the data into what's called a LNS, a LoRa network server. That network server is where the device authentication, the management of the device is handled. And with using any of the Everynet networks, the network server is actually part of the service. So that actually removes some of the costs that some companies have had to incur with procuring their own LoRa network server, as well as the maintenance and upkeep of that, because they can become very, very complex. Outside of the LoRa network server, next is really the application. So we have open APIs and actually integration support as well with different applications and platforms out there. And what we're talking about here is Tago, who makes a very good platform for visualization of sensor data. So again, it goes from, that's fine. Sensor to gateway, gateway to the RAN. The RAN then feeds it to the LoRa network server. And at the other end of that LoRa network server is the application that people are viewing it on. So the LoRa network server does come with the service. So, in there is a full-fledged LNS. It's a very load-tested LNS. Again, we're using this throughout all regions of the world. We do deploy computing clusters to that region when we deploy the network there. So, for example, Brazil has 2 different computing clusters down there that handle that network. The US has its own, Indonesia has its own, so on and so on. So there are local clusters that are supporting the network. Go ahead, go to the next slide, because some of this LNS stuff, it is common if you're using anything in LoRaWAN. But one of the main things is that we've got a very simple to use, very visual, very nice, easy to use LoRa network server that's intuitive. So, that's part of the service. So go ahead, Tom, to the next screen. So Puerto Rico itself, and when we do go into a country, it's quite a big process. In general, what occurs is we train local deployment teams. We actually provide the toolkits and all of the materials. So as you see on the right-hand side there, that is Puerto Rico, and actually during the dust storms a few months ago. But that's what a LoRaWAN gateway looks like on a tower. And I must say, it's beautiful. Some of the places that, if you look at the middle bottom of the screen, some of the views from the tops of some of the hotels are just absolutely astounding. What a beautiful country Puerto Rico is. Along with the top of the tower, there's quite a bit of work that goes into the bottom of the tower. So in Puerto Rico's case, we do know that the area is frequently hit by storms that knock out power for significant amount of time. There's the system we set up has multiple redundant sources of power, as well as a 4-day battery backup for each gateway that's deployed, as well as, and we haven't done this yet, but solar power for all of them. So basically, we're at a point now where we can drop solar panels at any of these sites, and it will be able to be completely off the power grid. The system is already set up for it. We just have not deployed the solar panels yet, but we've really made it to be a very strong network in the event of these storms that we constantly get in Puerto Rico. The hardware itself, so there are lots of different gateway manufacturers out there. A lot of them are very, very good. We've, really based on our experience deploying around the world, particularly in tropical regions, we've decided to build our own gateway. We don't offer it for sale, but it is the gateway that we use for all the networks we deploy. And as I mentioned with power in Puerto Rico, it's the same situation actually for backhaul. So each of the gateways additionally has Ethernet and 2 sources of LTE backhaul in each gateway. So again, there's 3 sources of power and 3 sources of backhaul on each of the deployed sites in any region that we go to. The gateways, again, are they're very powerful, robust pieces of equipment, and honestly, we prefer not to design and make our own gateway because it's a very expensive process. But in some of these regions, Brazil in particular, some of the equatorial regions, a lot of the hardware that's out there is just not necessarily suited for it, or they maybe need some additional backhaul and power inputs to them. So, but yeah, next slide is perfect. So we also have a full 24/7 NOC, as Tom again mentioned, in Varese, Italy. This NOC monitors every single gateway on our production networks around the world. We've got full logging, and actually a majority of the data that goes through the networks is typically the monitoring data of the gateways. We monitor something around the order of 60 different parameters in every gateway, and we're able to automatically determine when for example, a site has lost power and it's running on battery, or we've lost backhaul in a single SIM and we need to switch to another one. And then on top of that, we are able to automatically ticket our field teams. So in the event there's a failure out there, we can very quickly get some field teams out to the site and getting that site back up online. Next slide, please, Tom. This is a picture of Puerto Rico. And this again is about 50 gateways. It will probably expand out a little bit more. Probably the full number will be somewhere around 65 to get full coverage of mainly logistical routes within the country. We also have tools. So this is actually out of our coverage tool, where people that use our network have the ability to take this map and then also upload their endpoints. So you can see very quickly if maybe where your customer sites are or where you expect your sensors to be. You're able to very quickly see if it is in coverage and what, which gateways that device sees and what signal strengths you see it at. So we, help take some of that uncertainty out when you're dealing with new customers and new technology, that you can be sure, hey, customer on the outskirts of San Juan, they do have coverage, and we see, at their house, they are able to see 2 gateways, and here's the signal strength that they would be getting. So, yeah, very nice network there. It's actually was deployed in July. It was finished at the end of July, and we've been testing since then. So the network is up and ready to go. And the next step in using this network is actually what we're here for today, which is, you saw the devices, the gateways are up. We've removed that barrier to deploying that physical infrastructure for the companies down in Puerto Rico, and really a lot of these regions. And then where that data goes is to Tago. And so from Tago, you can actually build and do something to support your customer and support the use case. So Fabio, off to you. And thank you very much, everyone.
Great, thank you very much, Tim. Let me share my screen here. Hope you can see now. Yeah, so it's great to be here. By the way, if this time you haven't done any question or comment, feel free to do at any time. I can see a lot of questions coming to us. So you just have a button there, Q&A. Feel free to make your comment. First, we are located here in Raleigh, North Carolina, with a global team to reach our customers worldwide. Right now, we are in more than 100 countries using TagoIO. So we are growing, expanding, a lot of work. But that's what we really like to do, is really work with partners like Everynet, because we really believe in the power of the partnership. Let me talk about Tago here very briefly, then I'm gonna talk about the use case, some examples that we see a lot of value, that at least is the beginning, so you can understand how to use the Tago and also go with a demo. So it's a nice snapshot. That's, I think it's a nice picture here showing the IoT ecosystem and where Tago fits, and of course, Everynet as well. Okay, so you have the sensors, right? The IoT device on the left side, the signal goes to a gateway, and from the gateway go to the network. In this case here, in case of Puerto Rico, you not even need the gateway, right? Because there is a coverage there already, as Tim just showed. So your device goes pass through a gateway, but you don't need to worry about, and is received and treated by the Everynet backend. We have worked with Everynet for a while to make sure that we have this communication secure and easily done. So the data comes from the sensor, goes to Tago. Also, you can see on the bottom that you can even combine with additional information from different sensors. For example, if you already have a sensor that sends data through a Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or cellular, you can combine these on Tago. Other thing that's very important is that Tago is not only going to receive data, but it's also able to treat this data, process, and send it back to the sensor. Of course, depending on the type of the sensor. Then the right side, you consider integration. So Tago is able to integrate with several systems through our APIs with your enterprise or Google Sheets, CIM, ERP system. And then the developers can build the application on top of that. What we have done here is support the customers to build the application in some case, but we have a lot of documentation open, so anyone really can go and build it by themselves if there is a need for that. Also, we have the run model on the bottom. This run is the application that is able to get a final version for your end users using a white label version. The key components of Tago, there are several, by the way, but if I would get some of them, it would be the 6. Device management, that's where you integrate with Everynet in this case, and you can control the tokens, the authorization, you can rename the sensor and so on. Then the data coming to the data storage system from Tago. You have a lot of control there. You can keep the data for 1 day, 1 month, or forever, or you can download the data, upload the data. It's very flexible. The other mode is the analysis. We call analysis, where you can have scripts that can do operations. Can be very simple, like some basic math, generate reports, integration with other systems, get the weather information. That's very powerful. A place where you can upload scripts. If you want to run machine learning, AI, you can do this as well. Then you have, of course, the dashboards. I'm going to present this here that you build, and you and your end users can run and see in the browser or in the mobile app. Also, Tago goes much beyond IoT. You can also manage users, grant different level of access. For example, if you need 1 level, 2, 3, like director, operational people, or end users, you can do that. And of course, we have also the white label version. Let me show you here at the high level, the 2 steps to deploy application. First is you need to build your application. Okay, you have some frameworks, you have some examples that you can use to start with. But basically what you have to do is go to TagoIO, go to the area that you call our portal admin, and then you are going to see the key features. There are more than are listed here, but the main are device management, data storage management, analysis to make decisions in real time for you, notifications. You can define what's going to happen, when happen. You're going to send a push notification to your mobile phone, to your user, generate a report by email or SMS, or going to call this user and say something. You can do that through our notification system. And also the integration. That's the part related to what you call development. Then you can use the run model that's inside the platform, inside of the developer admin, to customize and deploy the application. In this area, you can grant access to users. You can decide which rules you're going to apply. You can get information about how your users are using or access your solution, because we truly believe that that is very important for our customers to understand how their end users are using. And also you can customize your white label version. For example, for the white label, you can brand it for your end users. We really want our customers to use their brand to their users. We have done so in a way that even a free account is possible to start add your logo, your not the URL, but in the free version you can get custom emails. You can change the colors. You can have the URL on the TagoIO. If you want a full customized white label version, that's possible. So we are removed completely from the picture. You be your URL, you be your logo without our logo, and the link to Tago. So there are a lot of features that you can do. You can set for your application. And the nice thing is that you can do this and see in the computer, in the browser, and then also in our mobile app. Other thing that I believe is very important is to mention that going beyond the IoT, we added some feature like the engagement feature. That is a very easy to use option that you can use to get your solution, your IoT portal, being tracked by Google Analytics, for example. It's just a couple of minutes and for free, you can do that. And you can see who is using your system, how long they are logging in your system, what was the last time that they signed up, things like that. If you have a CRM system that can, for example, have a chatbot like a Zoho, also they offer free version that's pretty good. By the way, you can do a lot of things. You can even have a chat inside of your application. In this case here in the screen, you can see Tagolo run, but of course you can change this bar and add your logo on the top. But at the end of the day, what we're doing here is really giving you tools to understand how your users are using your solution. Other thing that we have that's very important is are two things here that are a little bit different from other platforms. It's really easy to customize the PDF reports, and it's very powerful. You can really create the PDF reports the way you want. So you have several examples. You can go and change, and you can have a PDF report that are going to be send information to your users, let's say every day or every week, the way you want. Also, Tago is not only about visualization, but we have a widget that is like forms that can capture input from the users. For example, from Tago, you can get the sensor location or temperature, humidity, and so on, but also you can allow your user to enter, for example, the name of their customers, the location for the customer, can register a product, serial number, things like that. So you can bring all this information together and make a decision. Let me talk briefly about some use case before I show the platform by itself. I'm going to present three here. One, let's talk about application for logistics. In this case, we have designed an IoT application for logistics for asset utilization optimization. The goal here is really to optimize pallet utilization. Of course, there are different applications out there, but that was very interesting how this ended up. In this case, one goal was to have a very low cost solution per device. So you can imagine you have a pallet, you want to track that pallet somehow. Also, one requirement was to have very low CapEx, so low investment, and long battery life. Long battery life, of course, is important because you save money with less battery cost, but also with operational costs to replace those batteries. Then what we did here was really a solution that was really good enough for the application that we not even needed to have a GPS. Of course, that's inside of the requirement of the customer. And we use a combination of a hardware, that's a very nice hardware device, with the algorithm to achieve that. So basically the idea was to try to identify how long and when a pallet with a product arrive in a location. So you really did not know exactly the location for GPS. That's very precise, but has some drawbacks. So we end up with a very good accuracy. I mean, good enough for the application, because that is very important. And we believe the accuracy still can be improved. And the sensor It was very small. It's just a little bit bigger than a quarter coin. And here you can see some example of the analytics, just very high level. But with this solution, we're able to identify, for example, in a certain site, let's say a warehouse, how many pallets was there in a certain period of time, how many are out in transit, inside, what's the dwell time, for how long those pallets were there, because that's very important. They want to understand the cycle time of those pallets. So the turnover, are they fast enough? Are they losing pallets, for example, right? So with Tago was possible to create these scripts that would really meet exactly their needs. The other solution, like Tom mentioned before, is about cold chain management. You have seen a lot of requests in this area, and that can be very different areas. In fact, it's just not one, right? You can go for something fixed, like we want to know the temperature in a supermarket, and we want you just to track that specific location, just temperature. But also you can go to something much more complex, like we have applications where we monitor the whole cycle, delivery of a fish. In this case, we track it in the truck, in the shipment, in the warehouse, tracking temperature and transportation. So you can design advanced logics and advanced reports. And that's important because what we learn is that each customer is really different in a sense that they have different needs. So they want to do something with alerts that are programmable in a sense that they want to avoid receive alerts during a certain time of the day or a certain situation. Also, other thing is that we really have the capability to add powerful APIs for the integration, because many times they really don't want to have just the information about the application, but they want to integrate with other applications. And the third one that's really very broad, in fact, is about submetering. That is one area that we have seen a lot of demand recently during the pandemic for water, gas, and electricity. And you can see here in this diagram that in this case is for utility for electricity, but you can replicate this very similar for water and gas. Okay, so you have normally 1 meter in the entrance of the building, and you don't have much information after that. So the manager normally will get the cost, try to divide and try to do the best estimation by number of people, by square feet, and so on. So the proposal is with submetering is that it's possible now because of the cost of the hardware that is going down with a better connectivity, a better cost. It's possible now to get precise information that's much more granular than before. So we avoid estimations and get real data. So we understand how much each tenant is spending. Also, we understand this data, and we are able to create new algorithms. For example, for water, try to estimate leakage. That's real projects going on right now. And it's also possible to do things like generate invoice automatically. So this is just some example how you can use submetering. Before I jump here and show the platform itself in a couple of minutes, let me show the integration. So you may be wondering, okay, nice, how integrate this data from the sensor at Everynet with Tago? So basically, we have a complete description in our website about how to do that. You have videos, but basically you need to go to the platform at the Everynet and register your device. There are some steps there, but you added the AY, that's the ID of the device, and you do the same at Tago. You need to do this for each device. Of course, you can do manually, or you can get a spreadsheet and upload the whole spreadsheet with a lot of sensors. The only thing you need to do just one time is the authorization, because that's a secure code that Tago generate, and you add this at Everynet. So in this way, you really cross the communication, and we are sure that that account, the data from that device is yours, and it's going to be show up in your account. Now, let me go to the demo here in a couple of minutes. We're finishing here. Okay, so that's the platform. just have in mind again that you can always sign up for free. You can add some devices and start play, and our free account will give you the right to do a lot of things. For example, build a dashboard like this one. Okay, so of course, one thing that I think is really about the dashboard itself is not only about that. So you can create the dashboard the way you want. There are a lot of widgets for this. You can get, of course, gouge, charts, pictures, even videos. You are able to do that. Also, you have different controls for transparency of the widgets, and you are able to build here. The nice part about Tago is that you can start very basic and have your dashboard that's traditional, and then you can continue to expand. You can create a dashboard from one device, or as you expand, you can use what you call blueprint. That's really nice way to scale up your application. You can build just one dashboard, and then you can connect all your users. Let's say that you have 1,000 users, 1,000 devices in one dashboard. Of course, each user is going to see only their information from their sensor, but you just need to manage one dashboard. If you want to do a lot of dashboards different from each other, because you're customized for a customer, that's okay. Also, you can do that, but Blueprint is very interesting. So here in the platform, basically, you have the dashboard capability, you have the device. So let me show you here quickly, just idea about device. So when you add a device, you can go select your network. Of course, in this case, we're selecting here Everynet. Okay, then you can look for the device. You have a lot of devices here ready to go. And if your device is not here, for example, if you look for a device, let's say for temperature, you have a lot of devices for temperature here. And say, okay, if my device is here, I just click and we already have everything certified for you. If you are designing your own device, or if you are getting something from other region that is not here, you can do and create your own connector. We help in this case, but normally you can go and follow our documentation about how to do that. Other thing that is very important is the part that relates to RAM. Of course, you have, I have no time here to show all the details, but you can store files, you can create analytics, you can create SMS and so on. But one thing that's very different here, that's easy to do, is really to use the RAM. With RAM, you are able to create your own platform. Okay, in this case here, you are able to come and change the URL of your platform. So what that means that when you deploy your solution, your customers are not going to Tago. They're going to this solution in your URL that you determine. In this case, you can define the domain. You can come here and change the domain. You can change the colors. For example, in this case is blue. Let's say that I want something different. I want a green one. You can change the way you want. There are a lot of options. You can add buttons. You can add emails template. For example, when the customers sign up in your application, they're going to see they're going to receive an email like, hey, welcome to my application. Now take these actions. If you want to integrate this with a payment system, for example, you can send another email from the template, say, hey, you need to add your credit card here, or follow this step, get this code, and so on. So it is very powerful. So when you build this, you just click in this button, save, and it's going to generate this package for you. So you not even need to talk to us. You can do this by yourself. You have a lot of videos explain how to do that. Okay. Let me give one example of the run here before I close. So you can have sub accounts as well. For example, in this case here, if I want to go to other app, okay, I can come to another application that you did here. That's will be in this case my sub account, and I can see here temperature. I can see the history. I have a picture. This is again my development area. If I go to the RAM, that is where the customer is going to sign up. Everybody that signed up in my application, let's say in this case, are here, so I can talk to them. I can send email, follow up. Of course, you can add terms and conditions for them to accept, so they can allow you for the follow-up. And let's say that I will be like this customer here. I can come and sign up. So the customers are gonna enter here, and they're gonna see this screen. they're not going to sign up at Tago. So that creates a lot of benefits for you because you have all the power to work with Tago, design your application, design the integration, but at the end of the day, your customers are going to your application. Other thing that we have here is the mobile app. So if you go back to my application, for example, I have a lot of applications here. So whatever I build here, okay, you can see, I don't know if you can see well, but you can see the mobile app. Okay, that's not the browser, that's really the mobile app. You can download the mobile app. If you want a white label mobile app, you can get and request a white label version. So you deploy the mobile app on your behalf with your name. But that's important to show because when people really ask us, hey, can I have a mobile app? How does it work? So basically build your application at the Tago and your customers are going to be able to access your application from the mobile app if they want as well. Yeah, let me go back here to the slide so you can close now. Okay. So how you start with Tago? You can go to Tago.io, create your free account. You can do basically most of the things that I show you here. It's just the limit really related to the number of device, number of dashboard. That's 5, is a very good start. We have a lot of material, videos, webinars. You can even request a demo one-to-one. We are very excited to talk to you and present the details, the application that is really fit what you need. And I also have a community. If you're looking for example, how to do something, you just go to the community and people be very glad to help you. Now, close it here and I'll be back to you, Chris.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Tom, Tim, and Fabio. We have had quite a few questions coming in, both through the chat and in the Q&A. Chat, I believe Tim has been answering a lot of those questions, and those actually go to all the panelists, and so they can see them. The Q&A that I believe just comes to us, correct, Fabio? We're the only ones that see those?
Yeah.
So one of the, Ines has a question for you, Fabio. It says, he said, interesting use cases. Are these the main applications for Puerto Rico?
Yeah, I think we talk about that. I think that's aligned. That is some example that you have seen around the globe in several places. And it is really about the needs, right? We try to show what you have done in other places as well. But there are so many applications that that really spread around our customers. I think one thing that's very important is that we have a lot of flexibility. And normally what you say is that the customer knows their side. They may not be expert everything the IoT. We're here to help. Okay, Everynet understand everything about connectivity. We understand everything, at least you should, right? Very well about the back end, the front end to help the customer. Okay, but I would say that this covers pretty well some of the application. But frankly, today we have more than 1,000 applications, and we are surprised about something new that's coming.
Okay, we have a question from Tulio. It says, and I'm hoping I'm reading this correctly, in IoT logistics cases, what are the device gateway that was implemented and can it support CAN protocol, CAN protocol? Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, sorry, I'm not reading right now, but I can say that basically that's the beauty, right? The device is a LoRaWAN device, and it sends basically a payload of information. Okay, in this case specifically, say that's the strength of the signal, that's the gateway that I'm closing to. That's what is sent to us. So we don't need to worry about the protocol. I would say the protocol is LoRaWAN. And because of the integration with Everynet, they pass this information to us. And that is available for the algorithm to make the decision. Okay, so it's not any other kind of a protocol. That's really pretty straightforward information. What we call payload. That's basically a set of data that we decode in our side.
Okay. We have a question from Javier. It says the Sigfox IoT network is already in Puerto Rico and T-Mobile with NB-IoT. What is the main difference?
So just a couple.
Tom, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Tom.
No, just
go
a couple of thoughts. So, you know, I think as we take a look at the scope and the breadth of the network, you know, one of the things that's, you know, a real attribute of the LoRa network is the bidirectional nature, that you're able to send and receive information down to the sensors. And so that's one certain capability. But in addition to that, one of the key drivers is this battery usage. And so one of the things that we're looking at from a LoRa view is the ability to be very sensitive on battery usage. And that's important as we think about use cases that we have for a variety of these applications that, let's say, are sensitive to you know, the soil sensor, or a meter application that doesn't have ready access to a plugin. The LoRa network has the ability to be very conscious of how it uses the battery life. And so, Tim, I think you're also going to share some thoughts on that as well.
Sorry, I was muted there. And also a little bit about how we deploy these networks in a region is that we typically try to make the networks very dense, especially in areas with high populations and high potential device counts. We actually design it that every area that we're covering should see 3 gateways, which is a little bit different than how some of these other networks are out there. And in addition, as you mentioned on battery, that is a big differentiator between NB-IoT and LoRaWAN, is the battery usage. So that's another point there.
So we have a number of questions from Edgar. This is for Tim. Which devices were used for the water, gas, and electricity metering uses?
And which, well, actually that varies depending on region. So generally what would happen is in a region, let's just take Indonesia in this case, there will be local gas meter manufacturers, electricity meter manufacturers. And what we do is we go in and assist those manufacturers to design their devices correctly for LoRaWAN. We actually have a laboratory that we deploy in each region called our eThings laboratory. And what we do with that is, you know, test that the device is operating correctly on the network as well. So, you know, I would say there's many different manufacturers of all the gas, electric, you know, all the metering use cases. It's typically different in each region. You know, Brazil has its own ecosystem of metering manufacturers. The US has its own ecosystem of metering manufacturers, and so does every other region. But a lot of these meter manufacturers, taking, you know, let's just, you know, talking US, most of them currently have LoRaWAN modules for their devices. So if you're looking for the US, there's a lot of LoRaWAN meters out there.
Yeah, so, if I could just help here a little bit, if you go to TagoIO/devices, you can see the list of devices that already integrate with us. So there are a lot of devices there. And also you have a partnership program, Tago.io/partner, where you can locate partners. And we are bringing more and more sensors. Our team said that this number is growing crazy recently. And we see this radio, let's say LoRa, ready to go. What's the integration is very easy. So if there is specific need, you can always contact us, ask about the sensor if it's not there, because we see more and more coming.
Yeah, so he had a follow-on to his first question, and so I think you answered some of these. So they are, you know, custom meters with LoRaWAN radio integrated, developed by local companies, standard traditional meters currently used in Puerto Rico, plus LoRaWAN custom devices integrated into such meters by local companies. or standard traditional meters currently used in Puerto Rico, plus LoRaWAN off-the-shelf devices integrated into such meters by local companies? Any other option on this regards?
I don't know, but I guess that was to me. And
Yeah.
it was a fairly long question there. So so the question was, you know, the existing infrastructure, are there people that make sensors to attach to the existing infrastructure? The answer is in some cases, yes. In some cases, no, because for example, the water meters that are currently deployed throughout most of Puerto Rico are somewhere the order of 25 years old. And there's not a plug-in LoRaWAN meter that would attach to that would be able to accurately read it and send that data. Because honestly, we did look at it, and the meters are in pretty bad shape. And
Yeah.
so, and they're also the old dial meter sort of devices, and it becomes less expensive to just replace the meter with a new one.
Yeah, I think it really depends. It depends around the globe, you know, on these different devices. Fabio, you mentioned, you know, a number of different devices that have LoRa. So sometimes we see the device within the meter itself. Sometimes it's an attachable. That's a sensor that's sitting on top of that particular location. So what we really do is take a look at each use case individually, and then come up with the right solution set. And as Tim said, we do have a laboratory that we put these sensors through, so we can make sure that that they're operating appropriately and can help provide guidance to the people that are thinking about implementing different kinds of solution sets. That's for sure.
Okay, I have a question from Alexandra, and this is for both of you. I mean, Tago and Everynet. Has Everynet already have a presence in Brazil? If yes, which states? And the infrastructure of gateways up to the Tagolo platform will be built for each customer from scratch, or is it already up and each demand will be attached to this network of Everynet?
Yeah, we've already got a full deployment in Brazil. Every state is covered. There's approximately 300 cities that are covered. For example, Sao Paulo has very dense coverage, somewhere on the order of 120, 130 gateways covering that municipality. You know, all regions, all major cities are covered in Brazil. I would recommend going to IoTopenLabs.io. That is sort of the conglomerate's the wrong word, but between our partners and ourselves and our training lab and our internal laboratories, that's really the main place that you could go and find all the information about how to use the network over there. And in terms of it being integrated with Tago already, absolutely, there's many customers using Tago on the Brazilian network currently. And I'll let you respond to that a little bit more, Fabio.
Yeah. Yeah, there are, yes, a good start point for most of the projects. So we try to reuse the model. So we really don't copy and paste the application, because the customers are really engaged and they are really customized. So we really believe on the power of the customization. So it's very important for a customer to have something different, but we own the basic models that they can use. So they can build it really in weeks, many applications. Of course, it can take more time because they're testing, they're expanding, and so on. Okay. Yeah, that's the key thing that you have seen. Is really ready to start, reuse, and scale up applications everywhere. So we have been working all these countries because, you know, it's really the standard, the way data come to us is really make easier to avoid any problem and wasting time, really focus on the application.
Yeah, so I think that's it for our questions, but I do want to say, you know, we're really interested in learning about kind of where you are in your IoT initiatives. You know, are you just getting information and planning right now? Are you evaluating, creating POCs? Or are you implementing and expanding? So, you know, if you could put that in the chat or the Q&A, that would be great. We would just like to know. And again, like we had mentioned at the very beginning, that, you know, we just touched the surface here of IoT. And so we would like to hear from you on, what other types of topics you'd like to hear about, any kind of verticals, use cases that you would like, or regional, like we had mentioned earlier. So we'd really like to hear from you. And we really do appreciate you joining us today. And and somebody had asked if we will provide the PowerPoint decks after the presentation. So is that the case?
Yeah, we have the videos, right? The video be right available after that with the link. Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And great.
No, and I was just going to say, yeah, thank you all. Thank you all so much. And I hope you join our next one. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.